Okay, let's begin. If you think about it for a second, both learning and perception require some capacity for memory. We define learning as a relatively permanent change in knowledge that results from experience, and the fact that organisms can learn assumes that they have some capacity for memory, a capacity to record both the changing knowledge and the experience by which that knowledge is changed. Similarly, when you think about perception, we talked about how there are two sources of information that the perceiver uses to construct a mental representation of the world around him or her. The first source of information being the stimulus environment, and the second source of information being the set of knowledge and beliefs and expectations that the perceiver brings to the perceptual information, the perceptual situation, and that constitute the kind of cognitive basis for perception. What we're going to discuss for the next couple of lectures is not just how learning and perception depend on memory, but more how learning and perception change memory. We're going to talk about memory as a byproduct of perception, where perceptual activity changes the contents of memory. You actually learn something new, you acquire some new knowledge about the world, and then that trace of perceptual activity, what we call sometimes an engram, then continues to influence our behavior long after the stimulus itself has disappeared. So that's what goes on with memory. And the really interesting thing about memory is that it's basically our storehouse of knowledge. It is the place in the mind where we store the knowledge that we've gained through our various kinds of learning experiences. But the more important function of memory is that memory frees behavior from control by the immediately present stimulus. By virtue of having memory, we're able to respond to events that occurred in the past, not just those events that occur right here, right now. Moreover, by virtue of having memory, we're able to reflect on the events that we've experienced in the past and use that knowledge and our reflections on that knowledge to help us plan for events in the future. If somebody comes up to you and says, my cousin's getting married on Saturday, will you go to the wedding with me? Before you say yes or no, you'll go back and say, oh, last time I went as a wedding date, what happened, all that kind of stuff. So that you use your stored memory in order to plan events from the past, so in the future. So what is the nature of this knowledge stored in memory? Well, it turns out that the knowledge stored in memory takes a variety of forms, and we can organize these forms according to a kind of hierarchy. The first distinction we want to make is between two major forms of knowledge, procedural knowledge and declarative knowledge, and then there are subsets of kinds of memory underneath each of these. The general idea is that procedural knowledge consists of directions for action of various sorts, whereas declarative knowledge consists of factual knowledge of various kinds. Here we can see this a little bit more clearly. Let's look at declarative knowledge first, which really is represented by sentence-like statements, factual statements about the world and about the past. So that you have factual knowledge like Columbus discovered America in 1492. George Bush is the President of the United States. I had chicken for dinner last night. I was born in New York State. That is a factual statement, a statement that has truth value, that refers to something about the world or something about